It's Dave Johal once again for Punch Out Boxing. Pleased to be joined by our colleague in the north, Carl Hall. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good mate. How are you? I'm just trying to shift this last of this cold, which you know about. But other than that, yeah, good, good.
Ah, good, good. Unfortunately, Ra and his famous hat won't be with us today. He's in Turkey, but he has given us some thoughts about the about his take on the announcement that was Smith versus Eubank 2. Um, but without further ado, Carl, what do you think of this fight? Do you think it was warranted?
No, I don't think it was warranted, but I do. I kind of feel like with everything that's gone on at the moment, I kind of Ben, I probably think they feel like they didn't have any other avenue to go down immediately for them, and to have a decent show, which I think it still will be a decent show, definitely. It was. I think the one thing that will work for this is that Liam Smith proved Chris Eubank wrong and himself right, obviously. Chris Eubank's very good at talking, so they'll be able to talk the fight back up again. And people, I think, will be interested to see whether Liam Smith even might want to see Liam Smith knock him out again. So that for that reason alone, I think people will tune in.
It's an interesting one as well because again, this is on pay-per-view. The
Yeah.
undercard is pretty decent. Natasha Jonas is on there as well. Um, but does it again? Second question on this: does it warrant being on pay-per-view? Does it justify the pay-per-view tag after what happened to Chris Eubank Jr. In the first fight?
How much is it? Is it like 19 or 24.99? What is it? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but it is going to be pay-per-view, so the minimum it has to be is £20, right? 19.99.
Yeah. It's I like I want to say no immediately, but again, I do feel like that they'll be able to drum up some good attention with it because they 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 don't clash in a bad way. I think we talk about styles make fights, but I think also personality types make fights as well. And those two they're both the personalities are quite they're both quite fiery, but Liam's also got that reserved nature about him, and Chris Eubank can be a bit of a wind-up merchant, but he's going to be on the other end of that now, knowing that he's actually already been knocked out. But like you said, there's some good fights on there because I think Savannah Marshall's going to be fighting on there as well, isn't
Yeah,
she?
she's going to be fighting for the undisputed WBC,
Yeah,
which is a great card. I mean, I suppose just for the main event though, that's what I'm more getting at. Is that a big draw? In your opinion? I mean, my take on it is, um, it will be a great event
yeah.
as
And I'm
opposed
with
to
you
the.
on that.
Yeah, I think the event will be absolutely fantastic because the jibes that Chris Eubank Jr. said to Liam Smith in the first one about being 60% fit to beat you, and then the way it ended, just the back and forth between them is great, isn't it? And the press conferences alone.
It is, and we will never show any, like, I'll never look to show any bias on shows or anything like that because I've not been to a huge, well, I said, with what we're doing, I've not been to a huge matchroom show. Obviously, I did go and see Joshua Klitschko, etc. in the past, so I've been to the events. But from where we are now, like boots on the ground, being close to the ring, having the opportunity to have access to the fighters, I will say, for all of Lawrence Okoye's faults when he had his last fight, the event itself, I was like, I stood back and I was like, this is like really, it was almost Hollywood. I was like, this is like really enjoyable to be a part of. And you've hit the nail on the head. The one thing it will be is a good event, but the fight itself, I think they'll get to a point where it might be worthy of pay-per-view. But like off the bat, if I'm a paying customer, I'm like, really, do I want to be paying for that? Probably not. But I do think they'll come up and be able to talk it into that sort of level, if that makes sense.
What does
Yeah,
Chris Eubank Jr. need to do this time? I mean, clearly he has to win, but can he do anything different? Is there enough there? Because when someone gets KO'd in the manner that he got stopped, one would say that it's another repeat job, isn't it?
definitely. I honestly think his only way of winning this fight is being able to outbox Liam Smith on the outside. Um, but I don't. I think because Liam Smith knows that he can. Well, he's obviously stopped him, and he knows he's going to have enough about him to be able to do that. I don't, and probably wasn't. I'll say I wasn't overly worried. Like Chris Eubank did land some good shots as well, but I just feel like Liam Smith will have enough about him. He's got more experience at that level and beyond to actually walk Chris Eubank down. So it's going to be a difficult one for him. The only, like I said, the only way for him to win, in my opinion, is box on the outside. But I actually don't think he'll get the opportunity to do that.
And in the press conference, did you see? I mean, I took you watch it, but when it came to Chris Eubank Jr., one of the things that he said was, I told Ryan Garcia after his fight, it's not about how great you look when you're winning, it's about how you hold yourself when you lose. Um, he said that in the press conference, clearly in reference to how he lost. Um, but do you think there was a bit of humbleness there from him, or do you think he was still
So
in?
immediately after, I thought it was fair play to him. I thought he was very humble, and I didn't see much in terms of complaints. The one thing that annoyed me about that, really annoyed me, and I follow Nick Blackwell on Twitter. I'm not sure if you do, and
No.
I do interact with him every now and then, and he made a very good point. But Chris Eubank come out and said that he should have been given the opportunity to go out on his shield, but he should be like, with what happened with the likes of his dad and obviously and Nigel Benn, and then obviously himself with Nick Blackwell, you would think of all people in boxing right now, he would be the one person that would understand that a referee needs to jump in at these opportunities. And you can't be hypocritical in the sense where you're fighting Nick Blackwell and you're almost begging the ref to come in and stop the fight, but you want to be afforded the same treatment when you know what's happened to Nick Blackwell. He's come out with a brain injury out of it. Like, we can't do that. We've been at shows. I've been at shows and I've watched. I watched Pat McCormack. I can't remember the guy's name from Italy, but I mentioned it to Eddie Hearn afterwards. I said, "Do you not think that fight should have been stopped?" He was like, "It should have been stopped 2 rounds earlier because he was pummeling him." And I don't think it's fair for him to get on the referee's back. And that took the humbleness away, because I thought he's still a bit bitter about it. He was looking for an opportunity to give himself a bit of an excuse.
Yeah, and Liam Smith, when asked, is it going to be the same? I believe it will be the same outcome. As blunt as that, I believe it will be the same outcome. So I think there's no pressure there for Liam. I think he's expected almost to do what he did the
Yeah.
first time around.
I've got to say, like, I've enjoyed watching Liam Callum come up, and obviously it was great that he got the opportunity against Canelo, but we obviously saw the complete difference in levels. I still, even though, like, I was very certain that Liam Smith would win that fight. I didn't expect it to happen in the way that it did. I really didn't. Um, so I do expect him to come out on top. Do I think he's going to knock him out early? I almost find it difficult not to see that, because I just don't. Like I said, the only way Eubank wins is box on the outside. And I just think Liam Swift's just going to put pile the pressure on him early. So I think it could be a very similar story.
Yeah, it could be. I think the only sort of difference may be, I don't think Roy Jones is in the corner this time, is he?
I've not looked at that, mate. I didn't realise that at all.
Yeah, I think in the first fight he was there, wasn't he? He was quite an integral part of Chris Eubank Jr.'s stable in his team. We didn't really see him there. I don't think he was there at the press conference. I'm not sure if he is part of Team Eubank Jr. That's something that
Yeah.
we can sort of follow up. But in regards to the fight as well, if Chris Eubank Jr. loses, would you say that that's the end? Two losses back to back. I mean, obviously, when I say it's obvious, but he's the master of his own career, and he's had a fantastic career. Let's make no
Mm.
bones about it. Super middleweight world champion, and by the IBO, close decision loss there to Billy Joe Saunders. However you look at it, almost got the fight with Triple G as well. So
Yeah.
he's had a decent career. It's not been a horrendous career, but if he does lose on this occasion, would you say where is the road back? Because in the first fight, at the press conferences, Chris Eubank Jr. did say that if he loses this fight, he would consider retirement, right?
And I think I honestly do think that that's probably the only avenue that he would have. And you're absolutely right. I don't think he's ever hit those echelons that he kind of talked of, but I do agree. The fight against Billy Joe Saunders was very interesting to watch, and um, I think a lot of people may have felt, regardless of how close the talk was, that that probably could have been a landslide for Billy Joe Saunders, and it wasn't really. So he kind of proved his mettle at that level. But I just don't see anything for him after this. Especially with, kind of Ben being banned, of course. Like, even if he gets the win, where does he kind of go? Do you know what I mean? I don't know what his path is at the moment. And he's obviously fixated on avenging this loss. But yeah, if that does happen, which we think it will, I think it's time to call it a day. And he has been very entertaining to watch. He really has. He's not like he's been boring and not kind of backed up some of the things he said. He has been interesting to watch.
Yeah, he's had a good career. Let's make no argument about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to reach the levels he has in the World Boxing Super Series, with the final against George Groves, it never
Yeah.
went his way, but he's been an entertainer through and through. I'm almost talking like he's lost this already, but
Yeah, I
it's
know.
more about assessing if he does lose. And Liam Smith, I mean, former world champion, if he loses, is there more? Do you think, in your opinion, do you think there's more roads for him to go at?
Yeah,
If he does lose?
I think the interesting one itself is that Kell Brook fight. Like, I think I'd quite like to see that, to be honest, because I think Liam Smith, regardless, is coming towards that sort of. He's not quite at the end of his career, but he's coming towards it, and I think that Kell Brook fight would be interesting, and he's got those sorts of things to look at. Um, Whereas if Chris Eubank gets dealt with in the fashion that he did, I'm just like, well, where do you go? Because if you fight Kell Brook might knock you out. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's not what you want when Kell Brook's in retirement at the moment. But I think the Liam Smith and Kell Brook fight would be interesting. So I think those not exhibition, but those almost borderline exhibition fights with ex pros. I think I could see Liam Smith going down that route. Could he have a crack at pushing up the rankings again? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those sort of interesting times where some fighters that you thought were done are on the sort of comeback trail, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah,
fight's going to be contested at super welter or middleweight, I think it is, and um, it's a really good division anyway, with people like Denzel Bentley in there. Hamza Shiraz floats between super welter and also middleweight as well. So the domestic scene is quite tight anyway. Um, I mean, I spoke to Chris Eubank Jr. I think it was last year, and I asked him, look, is it middleweight that you're going to settle at? Would you consider going up again? And he said the only fight he'd go up for would be Saul Canelo Alvarez at super middleweight.
can you
So
imagine now? Can you genuinely imagine now him in the ring with Alvarez after what happened against Liam Smith? It's like it's career suicide.
yeah, because he is the pound for pound king at the moment. I mean, yeah, he's done it at multiple weights. Even the Bivol loss, it doesn't do
Yeah,
him any. It doesn't put his career backwards by any stretch. But again, interesting as well. I also asked him, "Did you watch the Denzel Bentley versus? I think it was the Felix Cash fight at the time, when Denzel Bentley lost to Felix Cash, and
yeah.
would that be a future opponent for you as in Felix Cash?" He says, "Oh, he hasn't heard of Felix Cash." Um, so
He's
it was
quite
quite
good at that though, isn't he? He's quite good
yeah,
at that.
yeah. But he's such an entertainer.
Yeah, he
Um,
is.
but it'd be interesting to see if he does lose, does he retire? Does he then say, or does he stick at the domestic scene? Because it is a very very hard road back, isn't it? After two heavy back-to-back defeats potentially, we don't know what's going to happen on the night. It's stacking up to be a good one. But if we had to take a prediction now, Carl, I mean, we actually got one right.
Yeah, I
You
know.
Raw got it wrong last week, but
Mhm.
we actually got one right, which was pick the round.
I
Uh,
know. Do you know what was so annoying as well? I told all my other friends, I was like, we're gonna do him in the seventh, in my opinion. And I was like, I've got to put a bet on this. But I don't bet, to be honest. I really don't. Um, but yeah, I think had I put a bet on it, it probably wouldn't have happened. So I'm kind of glad I didn't. But I couldn't believe it. Like, immediately when you put the message in the group, I was like, this is crazy. Crazy. One of them's
Um,
got to come right.
yeah, and whilst we're here, we haven't really spoke about the fight. Javante Davis
Yeah.
versus Ryan Garcia. What a punch! What a fight! What an event! I mean, for me when Javante Davis when he landed that beautifully timed shot to the
Oh,
liver, and the way Ryan Garcia went back, and you could see, okay, now it's affected me. He took the knee, and he just couldn't continue.
yeah.
And people have alluded, look, that reminds them of Bernard Hopkins doing that to Oscar De La Hoya, and again, beautifully timed shots. So
Which
what?
is so ironic, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's so ironic.
yeah, they were both there, allegedly receiving death threats, and
Yeah.
what a night! What did you think of the fight?
The event itself was insane. I watched the weigh-in. I don't know if you watched it as well. That was ridiculous, the amount of people that were there. Like they
It
obviously
looked
had the
mental.
cameras and then panning back, and you were like, the streets were lined like for however far back it was, and it was just like it was like Prime Mayweather and it even at times looked even more manic than that. It just looked a great event to be a part of, and I was shocked by that. Like because I, as I said, I'm a very very big fan of Tank, and I actually don't think he gets enough credit personally. Because and I said to Ra, I said the one thing that I like about him is his opportunity to calculate when somebody makes a mistake, and he did that, and he was able to prove that twice with the first knockdown. That was unreal, unreal, like perfect.
Yeah,
And I was just like, oh, that is why like I really enjoy watching him. Um, but yeah, the whole event seemed great, and I'm really happy for both of them because it's proven that they are pay-per-view draws, and I hope that Ryan Garcia is able to come back. But the fight itself, I just thought he was technically miles better than him. I appreciate that people were frustrated about the rehydration clause, and I get that. I honestly, and I can only say this from the outside because I'm not a professional boxer and I don't know how Ryan Garcia would have felt on the day Andre Ward had his say. Um, but do I think that 3-ish pounds would have made a huge difference as to whether he was going to take those shots? For me, the first one, no, because I just think it was an excellent shot, clean. Ryan Garcia's made a mistake. Tank's capitalised on that, and I don't think the weight would have made a huge difference with that. But I just his footwork, Tank Davis's footwork was by far superior to Ryan's. He was getting to the outside of the line quicker than he was. And he's just very good to watch. And everyone said that he was going to take a few rounds off. And he only took the first off, to be fair. Right. And what was more impressive that Ryan Garcia's speed is unbelievable. And for him to navigate that and finish the fight in the way he did was just brilliant to watch. And I think Ryan Garcia will be back. But I would happily pay to watch both of them, definitely.
absolutely. He reminded me of I'd say like a young Amir Khan, Ryan
Yeah,
Garcia
yeah, I absolutely agree.
as well. The blistering hand speed, and it was almost. I don't know if you watched the Canelo Alvarez versus Amir. I mean, that sounds ridiculous now, doesn't it? Canelo
Yeah.
Alvarez versus Amir Khan. But
I'll
Amir
go
Khan,
all the way back to Alfredo Angulo days watching Canelo. Everybody, Austin Trout, Ezra. I'm a bit of a fanboy, so I'll just leave that.
no,
But yeah,
we'll get your opinion next week on. Well, we'll do it today, but also next week we'll have a breakdown show of Canelo versus Ryder. But Amir Khan versus sorry, Canelo versus Amir Khan. You could argue for the first sort of few rounds, Amir Khan was outboxing Canelo. I mean,
I,
he was like with his blistering hand speed, it was really good. The scorecards never reflected that, but then Canelo, with the one punch power that he does have, kind of ended that argument. But Amir Khan was
do you know
he
what,
was giving
mate?
himself, yeah.
I don't even think it's debatable. I thought Amir Khan was like miles ahead. How they didn't have him ahead on the cards was just biasness because he
Yeah,
like he was outboxing him, and I think that was probably the reason that Canelo took that fight. It was like he knows he's going to outbox him. There's no way that he could keep up with Amir Khan, but unfortunately he's got that suspension. If Amir Khan could, it's not his fault, obviously, because he just loves to get into a scrap. He's not
yeah,
disciplined enough. If he could do what he did do what he did for 12 rounds. Honestly, I think you could argue he's technically one of the best boxers on the planet. He was unbelievable. Amir Khan was
yeah.
just
That night he was amazing, wasn't he? And
yeah,
that's And Ryan Garcia had flashes of Amir Khan with a
Yeah,
blistering speed, but then Tank, just the just everything on Saturday night was punch perfect, and the door is wide open now in this division. I mean, that's one of the
yeah,
modern day four kings that's lost the O. It doesn't really matter. I mean,
no,
this is the thing. When I was speaking to well, you've seen it, you've heard it when we spoke to George Foreman a few weeks ago,
yeah.
and the question that was posed to George Foreman was, why are modern fighters, why do they not fight each other? What is it? And he says sometimes we're just scared to fight each other. It's just that elusive, that zero,
Yeah,
that people don't, they want to cling hold of. But what a fight, and I'm looking forward to see where this journey goes now in that division,
it's
and who's
I
going to
don't
be
know
next.
how you feel, mate, because like people as they do, people talk a lot on social media, on Twitter, etc. But people like um oh Tank's gonna get like hammered by Devin Haney and then and Shakur, and you just like, really? Can you say that? I just want to see them fight. Like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? You can't, surely you're not just like, do I think he gets smashed by Devin Haney? No, I think they're both, I think it's going to be an unbelievable fight. I really do.
we
So to
don't know
just
where it's
say,
going to go. Yeah,
exactly.
we don't know, and here's a controversial one for you. But if you throw, I know he's lost twice to Haney, but even George Combusas Jr., he's
Yeah.
still an interesting draw. He's still an interesting name. Someone who just likes to bring it to the center of the ring, and he's a good boxer. So that
What we want
division,
to see, isn't it?
you want to see people exchange. You want bums on seats, and you want people screaming at the TV and looking at things like this, which is excellent. Um, Before we wrap things up, then, so I mean, it's in regards to Eubank, sorry, Smith versus Eubank two. What's your gut feeling at this moment in terms of a prediction? Well, obviously, when it comes closer to the fight, when we're at the presses, when we're at the weigh-ins, when we're there fight night, then it'll be we'll get another prediction. But
Yeah.
your gut feeling at the moment, is it going to be revenge or repeat? What do you think?
I think it's going to be a repeat at the moment. I think, Eubank affords himself a few more rounds from trying to box on the outside, but I think fifth round KO.
Are you actually going for a for a
Yeah.
round at the moment as
At the
well?
moment, that might just be it at the moment. And I hope it's not that. Honestly, I would love it. I'd actually love big fan of Lawrence Smith, but I'd enjoy for Eubank being able to get the win and us having a trilogy and see. I would.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. I'm just going to say repeat at the moment, but again, I'm not going to predict any rounds. I'd love for that to be wrong as well, but my
Yeah.
gut instinct at the moment is I think it'll be a repeat, and they're both great. It'll be good to see where this goes, and if there's a trilogy out of it, then why not?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely
Um,
agree.
Good stuff. Big, massive fight next week. Huge. According to Asgater, it wasn't though. He said, "Oh, there a big fight on next week." I said, "Yeah, it's Canelo versus Ryder. Every fight that Canelo
Ah,
fights is a big fight." And maybe that's his friendship there with Billy Joe Saunders and everybody else. But on a serious note, massive fight. Um, I mean, we'll get some more predictions from us both next week. Looking forward to this one.
yeah, I am. It was. I say it's not a strange one. I said this to Eddie Hearn. I asked him, I don't want to be disrespectful to John Ryder because I don't think, and Eddie Hearn said exactly the same. He's not a tune-up fight, but if anyone's allowed to be afforded a slightly easier fight or a lesser strenuous fight on paper, then I think that's Canelo because he fights everybody. And I think there's probably talks of the Bivol rematch around September. I know that's what he said he wants, and the camp have said that they want that. Eddie Hearn's confirmed that to us that that's what they want. Whether that goes ahead, I don't know. But John Ryder does deserve this shot. To be fair, he does. He's been excellent. I don't think I don't think he's. It's not a. It's not your typical cherry pick. I think it's still a difficult fight, an awkward fight. John Ryder's obviously going to come to win. Do I think he's got a chance of winning? Personally, no. But if he did, absolutely unbelievably fair play to him, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. I am looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I think John Ryder. The few times I have spoke to him and interviewed him, Such a likable guy. And you can tell as well, he's a genuine guy. And what I mean by
Yeah,
that is, what he says is he puts his heart and soul into this sport as well. I mean, he's had
yeah,
some horrible decisions go against him as well. One which was very controversial. I was there actually ringside as well. The Callum Smith John Ryder fight. Um, you could argue that John Ryder actually deserved the win on that. But then equally so as well, when he fought Danny Jacobs, that is a decision. Let's be honest, that could have gone to Jacobs as well. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
so it's it's interesting because it's gone back full circle now. But does he deserve this shot? 100%, absolutely. Can he win? It's going to. All I'm going to say, it's going to be very, 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 very tough for him. Do I want him to win? Absolutely. Who would not want to see every single belt at super middleweight in this country? Who would not want to see John Ryder call the shots for once? So
Yeah,
do I want him to win? Absolutely. Is it going to be tough? Yeah, it's going to be tough, and this is what boxers get into the sport for, don't they, Carl? Which is taking
of
on
course.
challenges, taking on the world's best. Um, and I think it's the added pressure as well, which is that whole myth of John Ryder would have to go there and knock out Canelo in Mexico to win.
That, yeah,
Essentially,
that in itself is obviously like even at that level, like if I'm John Ryder, there's no way that I'm gonna. Obviously, he will do, but like me personally, I would really struggle to like compartmentalize that because in my head I'm thinking, surely that is the only way I'm potentially gonna beat him. And I'm not. Obviously, we're not saying judges are corrupt or anything, but at times they obviously favour the champion, and especially on home turf as well. We have that in Britain. Um, but saying that, and I don't think yes, in both of the examples, it's been pretty much a foregone conclusion with Mayweather and Bivol. Um, but it's not completely against the realms of possibility of him potentially getting a decision. And I'm like you, like I said, I'm a huge Canelo fan, like huge Canelo fan. But I will be supporting John Ryder. If he wins, I will be absolutely backing him 100%. He'll deserve it.
yeah, no doubt. I think trying to think of a decision where a fighter, I mean Tyson Fury over in Germany, got the
Yeah,
decision over Vladimir Klitschko. It wasn't the world's most entertaining fight. It was a fight with
absolutely.
six, but equally so as well. Um, Martin Murray going over to Argentina against Martinez. Clearly, clearly won the fight. Let's be honest. But every
Horrific.
decision, yeah, and one that I remember from my childhood actually was Robin Reed and Sven Otka. Robin Reed. Uh, if you ever get time, watch that fight, guys. Carl, if you've seen it, just
I
or if you
haven't. I
haven't,
will though.
yeah, absolutely controversial. At one point, Robin Reed turned to the ref and no, at the end of the fight, he said to the reporters, at one point, I was getting told for hitting him. It was it was really bad. But do you really want John Ryder to win? It will be a tough ask. Carl, what's going on for you next week? I know we're going to be covering the where are we? The Joshua Boatsi card over in Birmingham, which we're looking forward to. I know we've got a show coming up, haven't we? The Canelo catch-up show
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't get a chance to get down to Tyler Denny, so I'll probably reach out to him to see if we can get something from him prior to. I know obviously you probably see him anyway. And then I'm probably going to be reaching out to a few lads from the northeast, Callum French, etc. Maybe Cyrus, maybe even Lewis Ritson to see if we can get some stuff from them. Had conversations with Joe Laws to go down and get some stuff done because I think he's been having some ridiculous back and forth with some YouTubers, which is just ridiculous. So
I'd like to see Joe Laws actually, yeah, fight. I'd say on some good cards again, some
yeah,
big cards.
he's entertaining.
He's a good character, isn't he? And I
Yeah,
like the
he is.
comedian moves as well now.
Yeah, so he's really entertaining. So hopefully we'll get some stuff from them prior to next week. But for me, I'm probably going to try and get Tyler Denny on if we don't get some stuff from him.
No, it's all good. And thank you for those that have subscribed so far. Just
Yeah,
hit the subscribe button. Your support is most appreciated as well. Catch me over in, like I said, Birmingham for the weigh-in on Thursday. sorry, on Friday, apologies, for Joshua Boatsi's homecoming back again on Sky Sports for Boxer. I'll be there fight night on the Saturday, so we've got loads of interviews and footage coming up. The week after, Ra, the man with a hat, is back at the York Hall over on the Queensbury card, and also back at the Peacock as well for Martin Bowers and TM14's promotions card on the Saturday of the 13th. And next week, who knows, we may be in Dublin. That's all we'll say about that for Katie Taylor. But Ra will be
Fingers
here.
crossed.
Yeah, Ra will be here for the TM14 card in York Hall, but we'll give you more information about this the week after next. Carl, it's been great talking to you.